So last year, City of Austin, Texas, they put in place a no urban camping law. Basically said, yep, outlawed, not going to do it. Initially, cleanup happened. Things got a little bit better short term. And what invariably happens after that? Don't have enough funding to keep this up long term. We see this time and time again in Portland. We see it time and time again in Washington and Seattle here, in Olympia, and Tacoma. You can only do so much. And we're so far behind the 8 ball on the homelessness issue in cities that have allowed it to go. Other cities, you're not seeing the same problems. They don't have the same issues because they handle it up front. If you're handling it on the tail end, it's not going to be pretty. So homeless encampments continue to pop up around Austin despite the law in place. That's what we're talking about. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Sean Reynolds. I own a couple of real estate companies here in Bellevue, Washington, just outside of Seattle. Bellevue and Seattle were recently rated the #1 place that their residents get the most physical activity. Yep, that's right. Physical activity. Bellevue. Weird, right? Nah, wealthy people can pay people to train them. They got lots of time to go outside and walk around. That's just how it goes. You know, the more money you have, the more time you have to do these ridiculous things that aren't necessarily required in life, but they sure help out as far as your longevity goes. So there you go. That's one of those things, right? Here on News for Reasonable People, we approach things from a reasonable standpoint. If you got money, you can do a lot of things. If you don't, well, yeah, there's that, right? So it's crazy. No one can say that what we have now in all parts of Austin is helping anyone, said Cleo Petricek, co-founder of Save Austin Now. More and more homeless encampments and tents are popping up across the Austin area, regardless of the camping ban voted back in place last year. Now, we all go into a park and we all see signs, no camping. But Austin specifically went after it with basically city ordinances stating, yeah, no camping and we might prosecute you. Well, that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen in any area, but it gives, just because that whole homeless thing, in the majority of all areas, I should say, nobody wants to arrest somebody for not having a home. And yet you can't just overrun public places like a park, like the kids' playground, like the cross-country area in Green Lake in Seattle, where we haven't had cross-country meets for a couple of years, because they don't want the homeless to encounter said cross-country runners. You've got a conflicting, you got conflicting personnel there, and those two don't mix. Teenagers running races and homeless folks doing their thing. Not conducive to much of anything. And so Seattle has said, yeah, we're not doing that. So we get back to, all right, so you've enacted a law and you cleaned out the homeless encampments. Now what? That's literally where we sit. More and more homeless encampment tents are popping up across the Austin area, regardless of the vote of the camping ban voted back in place last year. What we now have is unregulated encampments in everyone's neighborhood that are not appropriate for anyone, especially the homeless, said Petricek. Save Austin Now is the local group that spearheaded the campaign to reinstate the homeless camping bans. Petricek said that she believes the city is to blame for the recent uptick in illegal camping. Cities across the U.S. are struggling with this one, aren't they? The ones that have allowed this to happen, mainly progressive cities. Let's be honest. Let's be reasonable. Because in other cities that are more moderate, that actually follow the law, they don't have these issues, and they don't have people banging on their doors literally, hey, can I come camp in your park? Whereas in Seattle, we've got that going on because Seattle is a great place to be homeless. It just is. We've got that reputation. We've got people from as far away as Florida coming to Seattle because why wouldn't you? Be reasonable. All right. I get some money. I get a tent. I get food literally thrown at me. I've got all kinds of services. I've got free needles. I got all kinds of free paraphernalia. I mean, clothing, food shelter, food banks are stellar. And people won't hassle me. They'll be like, it's okay. It's our unhoused neighbor. Why wouldn't people from all over the United States move here? It makes sense. It's reasonable. It's just that it's most of the time not legal, and the ramifications of having the homeless population just living willy-nilly are not good. I mean, we read about it. I talk about it on the daily here. Sometimes it feels like just the craziness going on. You know, you've got people being shot. You've got all kinds of crimes. You've got all kinds of stuff being sold. You've got prostitution. You know, never mind the environmental impact on, say, a city park from when they, clean out an encampment. You've got garbage, you've got rats, you've got needles, you've got, just a massive cleanup. You want to clean things up. You want to care about the environment. Start with the homeless encampments. Get that one on the go, because the amount of pounds of garbage taken out of homeless encampments, it is shocking. And it's our taxpayers' money paying for that. We let it go, we clean it up, and then we say, we don't really have the resources to take care of this. Therefore, it's just going to keep on going. And that's literally what we're talking about. I do feel they're letting down every single Austinite, homeless or not. We all deserve to have a safe city, and where the homeless have the ability to have a safe campground. These are absolutely things our mayor and city can do, she said. The city says otherwise. We are actively working with individuals who are unhoused. Well, you always are, so that's nothing new. Who are living in encampments throughout the city. Yep, true. Okay. To get them connected to housing and services. All right. But you're always doing that. The problem is a lot of these folks, they don't want housing. They don't want to be connected to housing and or services. They want to continue leading their same lifestyle and doing their same thing. That is the vast majority of people living on the streets. Walk around these encampments. You tell me what you see. If you see something wildly different, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, you're going to see a ton of people making lifestyle choices that are not conducive to their lifestyle and or anybody else's. And people say I'm hardcore on the homeless encampments. I don't think human beings should be living in a tent outside in an environment like Seattle. That's not the best place for them. And we have example after example after example of why not. And yet we don't really want to hear it because we want to just let people do their own thing. And that's kind of what got us here in the beginning. Just, it's Seattle. We're okay with that. We're okay with just anything going on. And now I think reasonable people are going, not so much. This isn't working out well. I mean, how many homeless encampment fires have we had here in Seattle? I mean, we're on track for like over 1,200 or something this year. And that's taxpayer money that has to go out. Every time you got a couple of fire trucks go out there, you got the paramedics go out for the ODs. I mean, just police there all the time for all kinds of crazy stuff. And yeah, we've got cities just kind of being overrun by this. Austin being one, and they enact this thing. And then they're like, we don't really know what to do here. We're trying our best. When the ban in Austin was reinstated in May 2021, the city implemented a 4-phase plan to clean up homeless encampments. Within a few months of that plan, many public encampments had been cleaned up, but almost 1 year later, the tents are back, and the city says it is a resource issue. You can see tons and tons of examples of that on YouTube video and all kinds of posts. Hey, we cleaned it up, but they're back. And unless you make it, one of two options, you either need to go get help for your mental issues or you need to get help for your addiction issues. Unless you start looking at those two things really hardcore, making people address those issues, it's not going to get much better. You're just going to have much of the same. And you're going to spend more and more resources on these issues, and people are going to freak out. This isn't working. No, it's not. We need to get them more housing. All right, but they don't want to go in the housing. But we need to get them more housing. Okay, well, housing first. Put a house over their head, they'll get off the dope. Okay, well, not exactly what everybody wants to live by those logic or reasoning, right? The truth is, we don't have the resources. We need to make sure that each and every one of our neighbors who's experiencing homelessness has a safe place to go. What if they choose to be in their tent? There's that. What if they choose? And we have tons and tons of examples of that here in Seattle. How many people took the offer after their homeless encampment was swept? How many people took the offer to live in the housing offered to them for at least just one night? One night. Less than half consistently. And maybe a quarter of those stayed in there. We'll give it a shot for one night, and then we'll figure out our housing situation after that. We'll figure out another place to move our stuff to, and we'll go do that. You got a lot of that. People living in situations that they want to live in, and that, they say they want to, better their lives, and they say they want to get out of the environment they're in. It's a tough go. I mean, that's a big uphill battle, and you're going to have to dig down to make that work. And people can do it. There's plenty of examples of people doing it. It's just that I think it's easier to just kind of hang out in a city like Seattle or Portland or Austin, where we just allow them to kind of do their thing. It's okay. You'll be better next time. Tovos tells Fox 7 Austin that the city is trying to address the camps through the HEAL initiative that was implemented last summer. Just last month, 59 homeless people were moved out of illegal encampments and into city-owned shelters. Well, that is a revolving door. We understand that. How many of those 59 homeless people are back out on the streets now? 45? 50? Probably. In total, 303 homeless people have been helped throughout the HEAL campaign. How many do you have total living on your streets? 10,000? 15,000? Somewhere in there, 5,000. We're talking about 303. All right, that's good. That's a start. But you're not going to have any measurable impact with that. And everybody knows it. Tovo says that it's a process to decide which camps are helped through the HEAL program, and there are not enough resources in the initiative to help every camp in the city. So unless cities really start to buckle down and come up with a game plan to get people the help that they really need, this stuff isn't going to work. It's just a temporary Band-Aid at that. Half the time these sweeps happen and you'll see a tent just on the outside of wherever that delineated area is that's boarded off or fenced off or taped off. You can't have your tent here, but you can have it here 10 feet away. That's literally what happens. Well, minimal amount of effort to haul all of my crap over here and reset up my tent. That's what I'm doing. You see it when an encampment sweep happens. You see everybody with their carts and pushing all their stuff around because they're just going to the next location to hunker down and keep doing the same thing. That's what we got going on. Limited capacity in our staff, unfortunately. They have a very difficult job of identifying those encampments that pose the highest risk to health and safety in housing those individuals. And that means that some of the other encampments are not going to be prioritized for housing, meaning we're going to let them rip. We can't do anything about it. We've given up. And that is literally where Seattle sits right now. There's a bunch of organizations trying to help, trying to get the mini housing to go, tiny housing. But I think there's so many of these individuals that just don't want to take, the opportunity handed to them. And for a large portion of them, they're stuck on fentanyl. I mean, let's just be brutally honest. That's the epidemic that is sweeping the United States. You're going to hear about that more and more. It's been going on for a few years now. Since probably 2018, 2019 started to really gain traction. It's full tilt now. And that's why you see so many robberies. These are people that, are going out and stealing stuff and get their next fix. And they might, initially look like you or I, but, you look at them a year down the road, they're not going to look the same. It's going to be wildly different. So, you've got some career criminals out there taking advantage of lax prosecution and lax numbers of policing. You've also got criminals out there who are hooked on this crazy fentanyl, and they will do anything to get their next fix. So, and you can't do that if you're in sanctioned housing or if you're in a shelter or whatever. You can't do that lifestyle. You got to get clean. And so, a lot of these folks, until they get clean, you're not going to see much in the way of change. And you can always say, hey, not everybody is on drugs. Okay, not everybody. But from my experience and what I've read and talking to people who deal with the homeless every single day, a large enough percentage of them are on drugs where until you square that away, I don't see this really getting much better. Because you look at the folks in downtown Seattle, you look at the folks in Ballard, you look at the folks in areas that I look at, they are not there because they got kicked out of their home a month ago or 2 months ago and they're struggling to make ends meet. They are there out of a lifestyle choice. Vast majority that I see. They want to live where they're living. They may not want to live where they're living, but they're choosing to live where they are living. And they have been offered opportunities. So in a large number of cases, they just don't want to take it. I remember where we had a hotel down south of downtown Seattle, overrun by basically Antifa-sponsored entity. And I can't remember how many, was it 44 hotel rooms were rented out and then they stopped paying and they wouldn't evict. They had to get the police involved and couldn't evict the homeless people that had been put up there in the hotel for one night. But such a tiny, tiny percentage, like 2 people offered help. Hey, we can put you in housing overnight. We can get you in whatever. Like 2 people took up that option. And you're like, oh, okay. Well, this isn't really about housing, is it? It's about lifestyle choices. It's the way I see it. According to city officials, there is no current set date on when another wave of the HEAL initiative will happen, but the city is working on something else, opening a hotel in North Austin. We've been trying to open hotels. I mean, the county is battling individuals suing them left, right, and center over opening up hotels in our suburban neighborhoods. We buy a hotel that might need some remodeling, and then put 150 units of housing in there for the homeless. How's that going to work when you put it next door to a school? Yeah. Or within proximity to a daycare. There's that. Because hotels zoning, wildly different than temporary shelter for the homeless. Wildly different. Those zonings are wildly different. It's just that cities are inundated with homelessness. And so they're just doing what they can and they're partnering up with counties and they're saying, yeah, well, let's just throw one here. Let's put in another 150 units here. It'll all be fine. I'm sure it'll work out. The Candlewood Suites in my district right now is being renovated and it will accept about 75 people who are experiencing homelessness, but that's about a year down the road. So oftentimes you'll see these shelters purchased and we're going to talk about them. Yes, down the road, they will house some people, but not nearly enough for the amount of folks that are living urban style. And then, just because you have a hotel doesn't mean people are going to go to it. So you have created a situation where this is the way it's going to be for a long time. And you might play that whack-a-mole where I talk about cleaning up that one homeless encampment and then they just, boom, go to another location. Because that's what happens. It's like when you clean out an area for crime, that criminal element just keeps on going somewhere slightly different, just outside of wherever that fencing is, wherever that tape is, wherever that boarded up area is, just outside there. Because that's what you do. Petricek believes something more can be done by the city. That is sad because it's the homeless that are feeling the consequences of the chaos in the city. Yes, but the residents are also feeling it wildly. Multiple examples of that here in Seattle. Just people saying, hey, I think I might want to leave actual confines of Seattle and I might want to go live in the burbs. I don't blame them. I would probably be of that mindset as well if I had to deal with that stuff on a daily basis. I was at my gym over the weekend. And the gal that I work out with, we've got these big kind of view windows. It's a nice gym. And they look out at the Cascade Mountains and they directly overlook 405 because it's in downtown Bellevue. So you got 405. You can always see what the traffic is. And then beyond that, you got the Cascade Mountains. It's really pretty. And then if you look straight down, she pointed out, hey, there's a homeless dude living in a tent in kind of this big median area. And it's got a bunch of trees around it. And it's one of the busiest, it's the main on-ramp, off-ramp to the city of downtown Bellevue, Northeast 8th. And so you've got a homeless dude living in a tent in a bunch of trees, and it's probably just super hard for the police to see. I don't know. But we can see it from the gym. Man, that is annoying to me. It's like, really? You're just going to plunk your tent down right there? And the guy's panhandling up at the intersection. So it's like, yeah, no, in Bellevue, they will take care of that. The guy might be there for a week or so, but eventually they're going to tell him, hey, you got to take your tent down. You either got to enter into housing here, here, or here, or, we're going to make sure that you do that. That's literally what Bellevue does. But other areas where they just let it go, that one tent just proliferates into who knows how many other tents. And then you've got an encampment, and then you've got mutual aid protecting them when you go to sweep it out. And it's just this vicious cycle, and it keeps on going. So this is literally what's going on. Austin Police Department continues regular enforcement activities related to the local camping ordinance and the statewide ban on public camping. Cross-departmental coordination has resulted in over 100 encampment closure actions since August 2021. But unless you're making people either go into treatment or get their heads checked out or go into some kind of mandatory housing, you move them around. You're just literally moving them around. You're just spending resources on moving them around, not a long-term solution. While most closures occur via voluntary compliance, the Austin Police Department has issued citations related to the camping ordinance. All right. So citations, are they going to have any impact at all? No. None whatsoever, because nobody's going to show up on court. It's going to be a ding on these people's records. It's going to go uncontested. Hey, you got an outstanding citation for living outdoors. If you're homeless, you're not going to give a rat's ass about citation, right? I mean, you're just going to toss it on the garbage along with your other garbage that is all around your homeless encampment, because that's unfortunately what happens in these areas. So Austin stuck with the same problem everybody else has got, even though they enacted what at the time, a year ago, was fairly strict laws. Unless you have the ability to make a change long-term, I think this is what you're stuck with. Now, other cities are trying different things, and we're going to be talking about some of those things. So just implementing a law that states, hey, here's what we're doing, can't live out there anymore, unless you've got some significant backup behind it, you're literally just playing whack-a-mole. You're cleaning out an encampment, it goes over there, moves around. Some of the people go to this encampment, some of the people move there. You literally hear them talking. I mean, where they're going and what they're going to be doing, and what it's like. Hey, this area is pretty chill. They don't hassle you too much there. You'll literally have those conversations because they're trying to figure out a place to live. I blame it on the government that they didn't step up in the beginning and enforce the laws. Now we've let it go for too long. And with COVID, CDC said, don't sweep any encampments. Then things really took off from there. And that's what we're trying to kind of wrap our heads around and hands around the situation. And for a lot of these cities, it's gotten pretty bad. I mean, take a look at Portland. It's gotten pretty bad. Going to be really tough to cap that one. So in the meantime, got podcasts for days here on the News for Reasonable People, right? Okay, that's it for me on this one. But Austin, still struggling, even though they've got laws in place that they've recently reenacted. That's what you're going to see in other areas too. So it's not a situation that's got an easy answer, and it doesn't have any answer that's going to come anytime soon. So going to have to work with this one. Hopefully you're in a city where your government officials, they take care of business. Not so much here in Seattle. Thanks for listening. We'll catch up soon. Talk then. Or Austin for that matter, right? We'll talk soon. Bye for now.